After a long, dominant 22 years of NBA basketball, making the NBA postseason a NBA record 22 straight years, going on deep playoff runs and winning 5 NBA championships and becoming one of the most well-known dynasties in all of sports history, the San Antonio Spurs finally get hit with that rebuild button that felt like it was never coming, because like we just said, they went to the playoffs for 22 straight years, and everybody just know Coach Greg Popovich, Tim Duncan, they were going to be a tough out in the playoffs no matter what. But here we are, we're in a new decade, we're in the 2020s, and after getting Tim Duncan, after having David Robinson, the San Antonio Spurs, they get hit with another draft gem, probably one of the best gifts in all of sports history, even from just a competitive on the field, on the court standpoint. They get Victor Wembanyama, one of the most polarizing basketball prospects of all time. Some people say he's a bigger prospect than the great LeBron James. So they get Victor Wembanyama, and you guys know what he is. He's an alien. He's 7'4", 7'5". Some people say he's gotten taller. He might even be 7'6". And then he's just so mobile. He's so athletic. And where he specializes at, as great as he is on the offensive side of the basketball, yes, I know he averaged 24 points per game last season in just his second year in the NBA. But what he specializes at is on the defensive side of the ball. And this has been the Spurs' motto under Greg Popovich for those 22 years that they made the NBA playoffs. They were dominant on the defensive side of the ball. And who was holding down the fort on the defensive side of the ball for the San Antonio Spurs? A defensive big man, one of the best defensive players in NBA history, Tim Duncan, a guy that was consistently, even past his prime years, still making the All-NBA defensive team. So that was something that the Spurs hung their hat on. They were a team-oriented on the offensive side of the ball, and they were locked down defenders on the defensive side of the ball, having their defense anchored by a big man that can protect the rim. And now they have somebody who's even more polarizing than the great Tim Duncan on the defensive side of the ball, and that's Victor Wembanyama. So what I like about the San Antonio Spurs, what they've been doing these last couple of years in the NBA draft, they're slowly rebuilding that defensive identity. We look at some of these guys that they're drafting around Victor Wembanyama, the athletes, the guys with size, the guys with athleticism and length that they're pitting around Wemby. I think it's going to be really, really scary what they're going to be able to do on the defensive side of the ball, and that's what we're going to be doing today. We're going to be talking about how great Victor Wembanyama is on the defensive side of the ball, and a couple of these great pieces that the San Antonio Spurs have put around him that can make the San Antonio Spurs not just one of the best defenses in today's NBA, but one of the best defenses in NBA history. And the San Antonio Spurs, they have one of the most intriguing rosters in the NBA right now. We can't forget that these guys drafted Dylan Harper in the NBA draft lottery this year. They also pulled off a trade to bring in De'Aaron Fox last year without giving up any of their core guys. And one of those core guys that they did not give up last year is Stefon Castle. And he's one of the guys that I want to talk about today because he really embodies what the San Antonio Spurs wants to do on the defensive side of the ball. Now, Stefon Castle, he won Rookie of the Year last year for the San Antonio Spurs. He was drafted in the 2024 NBA draft, and he had an outstanding rookie year, and he showed promise on both sides of the basketball. And just looking at him defensively, he's going to have a special career on that side of the ball. We're going to see him making all NBA defensive teams because he's just made for it. And what I mean by that, when I say he's made for it, I mean that literally, because we look at his physical attributes. Stefon Castle, he stands at 6'6". He weighs around 215, 220 pounds. I'm saying 200. He came into the league when they weighed him, he was around 215. I can probably only imagine he weighs more than that. Now, came into the NBA with an NBA-ready body. And then what really stands out to me about Stefon Castle is his frame. He has a 6'11", 7-foot wingspan. So those are some really long arms to have at the guard spot out there on the perimeter. And then also another special thing about him, like we just said, he came into the NBA with that NBA-ready body. So he wasn't a rookie that came into the NBA that was getting taken advantage of on the defensive side of the ball. He actually ended the season net positive on the defensive side of the ball, which is rare for rookies. He was also one of the most hardest scorers, one of the hardest defenders to score on in isolation in the 2024-2025 NBA season. So what he was able to do on the defensive side of the ball played a huge role into why he was able to take home that Rookie of the Year award. And then just having this type of defender at your disposal, he fits so well into what the San Antonio Spurs, if they wanted to do anything on the defensive side of the ball, if they wanted to play his own, they could have him at the top of the zone. If they wanted to switch everything, he could start off as that point of attack defender, and he could switch on to bigger players and be a nuisance and get steals in the passing lanes. If they wanted to lead bigs in the drop coverage, a guy like Victor Wembanyama who literally nullifies the paint when he's in the game, they have a guard in Stephon Castle who can consistently fight through screens because, like you said, he's a big guard. Really reminds me of Drew Holiday. The one thing that's crazy about Drew Holiday is how strong he is. And then you have Stefon Castle, who's an inch taller than Drew Holiday, and he has an even longer frame than Drew Holiday. So he has some real special potential on the defensive side of the ball. So that's why I wanted to talk about Stefon Castle first, because he's going to take the San Antonio Spurs back to what they used to be on the defensive side of the ball. So we have Stefon Castle, and this next guy I want to talk about is actually from the 2025 NBA draft. Not the Dylan Harper pick, the second overall pick, but we're going to travel a little bit down to the 14th overall pick, and that pick is actually a gift from DeJounte Murray and the Atlanta Hawks. As the Spurs, they traded, they had a deal that involved some draft picks and DeJounte Murray in 2022. So that draft pick belongs to the San Antonio Spurs now, and in this year's draft, it turned into Carter Bryant out of the University of Arizona. And Carter Bryant, he's actually one of the more intriguing players in this year's NBA draft pool, because he wasn't a guy that had an outstanding freshman season, but NBA scouts, NBA GMs, they like his potential so much because he has the potential of becoming that prototypical wing in the NBA that can literally do a little bit of everything. And the way the game is evolving, we see how those type of players are becoming more and more important. And that type of potential that Carter Bryant has shows. First, let's look at his physical makeup. That's another thing that NBA scouts love about Carter Bryant. And we look at him, he stands at 6'8". He has a 7-foot wingspan, so another guy with elite reach. And then also he has some elite athleticism. He's pretty fast, and he can jump very, very high. You see him get on the fast break. He finishes dunking the ball, making it look very, very easy. So he has tremendous physical upside, and then what he offers, the flashes that he showed, and the little bit of opportunities that he did get in his freshman year playing on the stack team at the University of Arizona. But he could be a guy that is so versatile on the defensive side of the ball, which is the thing that we're looking at today. But yes, Carter Bryant, and he has some very, very explosive defensive highlights. We've seen it in the NCAA tournament, and he also showed flashes of it in the summer league as well, that he can be a very, very elite defender. And how I see him, and I know Carter Bryant, he's a project player. The San Antonio Spurs, they're in a prime position to take their time with him. So I think that's what they're going to do. But I definitely see him fitting in the scheme of things, especially on the defensive side of the ball. And I can see him being a very high-level utility defender in the NBA. And when I say utility defender, I'm just using that as another word for versatile. But I could see him disrupting the opposing team's defense in so many ways. When we look at the way he defends in the summer league and the way that he defends in the NCAA tournament, the way he can come down and help protect the rim and block the ball, some very emphatic block. I remember hearing that word watching basketball. Sometimes they block the ball so hard, they say it's an emphatic block. And that's how hard he blocked the ball sometimes. And then also you can use him as an as a point of attack defender, just like Stefon Castle. He has the lateral quickness. He has the instincts to do that. He can play in the passing lanes. He's a switchable defender. He can front the post, and he can also bang in the post. So he showed the ability to do so many things things on the defensive side of the ball. So with the draft that the San Antonio Spurs had these last couple of years, getting Victor Wembanyama, the ultimate defender, the literally the potential to go down as the best defender in NBA history, and then they get this bulldog and Stefon Castle, who has this very wiry frame, 6'6" with a 7-foot wingspan. And he has muscle on him, and then you go out and you take a risk on this player Carter Bryant, who has insane potential, who has just basketball genetics with the height, with the length, and then to look at the rest of this roster, there's still a lot more intriguing defenders on this team, but those three guys really stand out to me. We can also stay in this year's NBA draft, and we look at the length on the number 2 overall pick, Dylan Harper, who's the son of one of the most elite defenders in NBA history, Ron Harper, my younger brother. He actually pointed that out to me. I had no idea that was his dad, but looking at Dylan Harper, him standing at 6'5", 6'6", him having a 6'10" wingspan, he has a lot of length. He could be a sneaky disruptor on the defensive side of the ball if he becomes locked in, if he becomes engaged. So he has a lot of length, and just having all that size and length, that's going to make a big difference in the way that the NBA is going. The more you can switch, the more you can disrupt teams and take away a lot of the things that's effective on the offensive side of the ball in today's NBA. Talking about all these defensive guys, can't forget about Jeremy Sochan. He's another guy on this team that just has freak athleticism. He has a freak genetic basketball makeup. He stands at 6'7", 6'8", another guy with that 7-foot long wingspan. So you just look at the San Antonio Spurs. Everywhere you look, you see length. Even you look on the offensive side of the ball, you look at their best offensive creators. We look at De'Aaron Fox. He's a 6'5" guard who has something. I don't know De'Aaron Fox's wingspan off the top of my head, but we look at him, De'Aaron Fox, he has some long limbs, he has long legs, and he also has long arms. We look at Devin Vassell, the second best offensive creator. Oh my God. Can't disrespect Wemby like that. Let me stop. Wemby is the best offensive creator. He has the most length on the team. And then we look at De'Aaron Fox and we look at Devin Vassell. For offensive guys that score the ball, that can score the ball, they have decent length as well. And you try to pick those guys out on defense, you're not going to have an easy time scoring on them. So I think the San Antonio Spurs, over these last couple of years, getting Victor Wembanyama, I think Jeremy Sochan came before Wemby, but drafting these guys so they can get their defensive identity back, I think they've been doing a fantastic job at it. Having a guy like Wemby, like we said, we call him a one-man zone, and then having all these freak athletes with all this length around him, it's going to be very, very hard to score the ball on the San Antonio Spurs. So that's what I want to talk about with you guys today. Man, I'm getting so excited talking about this. I'm running out of breath, but if you guys enjoyed, please leave a like. Comment down below how you feel about the San Antonio Spurs roster, how they're shaping up on the defensive side of the ball, and then subscribe. Subscribe for more weekly content. We do this all the time, man, and that's curtains.